Ladies, welcome to the Delphine Circle Millennials Show.
Yay! Thank you for having us.
We have Jessica Wenskunas, Dawn Kabiri, and Ashley Michael. So I was thinking back to when I was in my 20s, and I feel like the world was a much different place, and not necessarily for the better. So I decided to invite three of my favorite ladies, all in their 20s, to come talk to us about what's going on. Like, what are the good, the bad, the ugly, the things that you're looking forward to and the things that you're not. How about that? Okay?
Yeah.
So let's start first with Jessica. Jessica, you and I worked together at my salon, Butterfly Me. A little angel dropped you in my lap, and it was a blessing. And even though the business isn't still around, our friendship is enduring. So I'm so happy you're here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, like you said, my name is Jessica, and I was born and raised in Decatur, Illinois. I moved about California, SoCal, 7 years ago. I am the CEO and active partner of White Gloves Data, a value-added IT reseller. And I'm a fire sign, Aries. And
Representing.
yeah.
Awesome. Love it. Well, thanks for coming.
Of course.
Dawn, you and I met, I guess it's been about 2 years now, which seems crazy, when you and my son Eris started dating. And so now you're just part of the family. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Dawn, obviously, and I work as a compliance officer with my father, actually. Our company's name is InfiniGlobe, and we also have a subsidiary, CountSelf, and we work in the legal industry. It's really cool. We get to work with lots of different corporations, legal departments, and
It's cybersecurity, right?
yes, I have gotten the really incredible opportunity of getting to handle all the cybersecurity for our company and helping manage our compliance. And
Wow.
so that's given me a really great foot to get in the door with the information security industry, which is kind of the career path I'm headed down.
Wow. Big job, man.
Absolutely. Very excited for it.
Yay. Ashley.
Hello.
I was actually trying to think about how long it is since we've met. We sat down next to each other at a party.
Yes, on the boat.
I guess, has it been 3 years, 4 years?
3-4 years.
And we just realized that we were sisters from another lifetime.
Absolutely.
And just have been besties ever since. And I'm so happy. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Ashley, born and raised in Grapevine, Texas, which is like a Dallas-Fort Worth area. Moved here about 11 years ago, fresh out of high school. Trying to live the large life in California, you know.
Did a pretty good job at it.
Yeah. I am a neuromuscular massage therapist, so I specialize in pain management. I work for a chiropractor's office, which is the #1 watched chiropractic office on social media in the entire world. So we are so busy.
Back Bay Chiropractic.
Back Bay Chiropractic. Yes, come on down and get adjusted, people. I'm a Scorpio, and I don't know. I just love having my girl time.
Yay!
It's very important, you know.
I'm a Gemini, by the way.
All of my favorite signs.
Gemini, forgetting to mention she's a Gemini.
Who are you?
You're so funny. Okay, so let's start at the top, ladies. What is the best and worst part of being a woman in her 20s in 2021? Jessica, let's start with you.
Being in your 20s, I think, is really finding the time and really realizing your self-beauty. There's a lot of social media filters in today's world, and we all have access to, what we think is the perfect body, the perfect hair, the perfect makeup, everything. I think it's hard, it's difficult to kind of just find that inner peace and really realize your true beauty of who you are and be confident and not try to hold yourself up to a certain standard and things like that.
That's so true.
Yes,
Oh my gosh. In a kind of ways, it is the best and the worst of times, right? Because we do have access to everything like that, but then you also, it's easy to get so sucked into that and kind of lose sight of the reality of it.
Yeah.
Which, wow, yeah. I hadn't really thought about that, but we didn't have as much of that when we were younger. We had to go to magazines. Remember those?
Yeah, I do.
What about you, Dawn?
Yeah, I think kind of building off of what Jessica kind of led us off with, I think for me, it's been a really big, for me, I'm only 25, so half a decade in, but it's felt like a big era of realizing what I don't know, like realizing that I don't know. There's so many things that I never knew that I didn't know. And it can be as simple as like, basic things that maybe being from a different culture, I wasn't taught in the same way to, like Jessica was mentioning, like philosophy about myself and about the kind of people that I want to keep around me, or the kind of social groups that I want to be involved in and how I want to help shape my life. It's felt a lot like, I've been guided for a lot of that. And now really the reins are handed over to me, and it can feel overwhelming at first, but I feel like I've gotten over that hurdle at the first few years and adjusting now to really taking in that control. And it's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah. Well, and you are very close to your family. You have a very close-knit family. You work with your dad. Right. You come from a culture, Persian culture, that's very family oriented. Do you think that that's changed at all from like your generation to your parents' generation? Do you think that this family structure has maybe loosened up a little bit, or do you think it's as strong as it was with your parents' generation?
You mean like my ideas on what a family should be? I think that there's been like one of the incredible things about our generation, I don't mean to speak for you ladies, but my observation is that we have been given access to, like you mentioned, so much more information, and that like not only expands our group beyond our family and our social group, but it actually expands like the boundaries of knowledge that were accessible before. And I know we might chat about this a little later, but I've actually been doing a lot of research on my own about like considering other people's opinions on like relationships, and a lot of that idea of like things have to be a certain way. I think I definitely don't hold that perspective anymore. And that's something that is a bigger part of my culture, following certain rules. But I found that even, in Iran, looking at my cousins and others that I know, there's been a really similar kind of revolution and push culturally for the same kind of freedoms there as well as here. So it seems like it's something that our entire generation is doing around the world, regardless of the resources that they may have access to.
It's so true. Yeah, those are some great points. Yeah. So Ashley, I don't know. What are your thoughts? Is it easy?
If you can always see the glass half full. It's 20s has been such a beautiful. I just turned 29 last week, and I just lived such an amazing life in my 20s. I grew so much. It's like such a big growing period for everybody. Their 20s, you realize this is what I want to do, and then you find out, no, it's not. And you can just transition into like that beautiful butterfly, that we are supposed to be. And the 20s are just those years to build that foundation and what you really want to be, who you want to be. And it's such a beautiful, I had the greatest time, and I can't wait for my 30s too. I'm gonna definitely kill it, and I'm excited for everyone else too.
Yeah. Wow, I love the hopefulness.
Yes, gotta have hope in this world.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I'm in my 50s, which is not that old, but when I look back to my 20s, I feel like it seems like a long time ago. Like, I got married at 19. I don't remember anybody bringing up to me, wow, that's kind of young to get married, or are you sure you're ready? Or, I can't imagine any one of my girlfriends getting married at 19 without me going, are you sure? Have you thought this through? Like 19, that's pretty young,
Ooh, very young.
I remember I planned to have a career and have a family, which was like really new and really like my mom's generation. People just stayed home when you had children. You didn't work. And I remember that was like a big deal of like having children and having a career. So that doesn't seem big now at all. Like most people work and have kids, so doesn't seem that big of a deal. I remember thinking that America was the most ethical country in the world, and that our leadership was well respected all over the world. I don't know if I believe that anymore. And I believe that if you were going to earn anything over an hourly rate, college was a must. Like you absolutely had to go to college, and you got a job and you worked at that job till you retired and you got your pension and your gold watch. That's basically kind of how I was raised and grew up. So going down the line, like give me your opinions on some of these areas. Like, getting a college degree and that being the most important thing. How do you feel about that now, Dawn?
I think that I was definitely raised in a household where education was a really high priority. And I've seen a lot of people take different paths. And just like you mentioned, nowadays we're so lucky because people are really leaning into their passions and creating opportunities for themselves, which is really encouraging to see. You don't have to be part of a certain set of structures in order to be successful. I personally do value education really highly, and I've taken some years off since graduating. I got a philosophy degree, so
Go ahead. Tell your alma mater.
Yeah.
I got a philosophy degree, graduated 2018 from Kenyon College.
Nice.
Very good college.
Yeah, it's a great college. I'm very grateful to have gotten the experiences that I had there. But yeah, I definitely look forward to personally, going and getting higher degrees and continuing to learn. And I think just going back to it, I mentioned theme is you don't know what you don't know. Right. And I think for me in my 20s, it's been a really great opportunity to take a step back, being like a really high achieving type A all through high school to be like, I know some things, but I don't know most things. And education is a really great opportunity to be surrounded with people who share that kind of goal. So,
well, and in your industry, I'm sure most people that are working around the legal field, around those types of things, probably have degrees. Entrepreneurism is at an all-time high, though. I mean, both of my kids think that their highest goal is to be an entrepreneur. You starting out as an entrepreneur, tell us a little bit about what are your thoughts about formal education and entrepreneurism?
Yeah, I think education, college-wise, I think it kind of just depends on the person, depends on the career path you want to take. I've been in sales for a long time, and when I graduated high school, I ended up getting a trade. So I ended up graduating from Paul Mitchell, kind of just get my feet on the ground.
I'm so glad you did, because you were awesome at the salon.
Yeah, I realized I really enjoy the beauty industry. I realized, there is money to be made there and flexibility while, I did attempt going to college too, but then I just realized, I don't know exactly what I want to study. So for me, it was a high cost for something I wasn't sure about, so it didn't really make sense. Luckily, though, sales, it was about my personality. It was about being able to connect with people, and the beauty industry helped me learn those skills right out of high school and to go into college. But so I think it's really just depends on who you are and what you think you might want to do. And if that is the right path to take, then I think that's wonderful. But if not, there are other opportunities where I don't think it's as high, as important as it used to be.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Well, what about getting married? Because I feel like I'm seeing such transition now in terms of how people feel about marriage. My sister Dusty, which you guys know, she's been with her mate for, 20 plus years. I've never seen a happier couple in my life. So I don't know. I feel like marriage is even being up in the air these days. How do you feel about it?
If the both, partners agree on if you're not going to get married or not, I think that's okay, as long as, you have a really happy relationship and you got the communication that you need to have the, correct building blocks to make a successful relationship. Then, why have to sign a piece of paper and, throw a ring on the finger to say, what should we say to, like, for society wants us to be married? Like, what if we're happy and we don't need that pressure of that piece of paper?
But I think you want to get married.
Oh, absolutely. Let's just be clear here. I would love to get married. That's my dream, to be a wife. And, I love the family thing and dinners. And
you're a little more traditional in that way.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, definitely. Memories are made in the kitchen. And, everyone, I love that. I love that. I am going to get married, but I back up anybody who doesn't want to. It's whatever, everyone's choice.
And to build off of that, it's so interesting because I've been thinking a lot about this, and I was raised to definitely.
You always think a lot about a lot of things. You're my thinking
overthinker over here.
Stop thinking. Overdrive. But I've been doing some research into marriage because it is just such a. For me, it was something where I wasn't looking it wasn't my dream to be married, but it was a given. I'm going to be married one day. It's a milestone I'm going to achieve. And I've been doing, in wanting to have like a successful relationship, doing research on how to maintain that. And I came across an article, and I believe it was about the Dutch. And there's this kind of new movement there where people are getting married at the end of their, not like end, but later on into their relationship. So they'll build a life together. They may even have children. They'll have homes. They can have business. They can share expenses and income, but they kind of do a marriage as a cap to a successful relationship as opposed to kind of the start of it.
I love
And I thought that was such a, it's kind of along the lines of like, it allows you to build it, and it, not necessarily that you're going to leave or break it, the relationship, but I think for me, I don't necessarily have to get married, but I never want to get divorced. And so that's a communication, if your partner doesn't feel the same way, if they don't want to sign that contract that's a legal contract that has certain things that accompany it, they don't have to. And I think that's definitely a huge mindset change that came as a result of experiences in my 20s.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
She researched it and everything.
I was not thinking that at my age, 25. I will tell you that.
Yeah.
Well, seeing that you're dating my son, I appreciate all the effort put into that. That's it. Yay.
We're raised them right, didn't you?
Well, so I came from a family where my parents got divorced, and seeing the divorce and kind of like what it does to some, like my brother and sister and things like that. I actually wasn't like searching to be married. I wasn't out there being like, I want to be married by the time I'm 30, to have kids by 34, things like that. I never really planned it out. In fact, I was kind of more hesitant and kind of just this. But then I found a wonderful man, and he makes me so happy. And now I can't wait to be married. Yeah. So it's just, I think it sometimes just takes the right person and the bond that you guys have together, and let's do this. And
Annie put a ring on it. So there we go. Look at your
Beautiful
engagement ring.
It's when you're not looking, it's when it finds you. The universe
exactly.
brings into you. Yeah.
Well, I think part of it too, you guys, is I feel like it's how we are setting our next generation, our children, up for the prospect of marriage, because we've gotten this idea that marriage has to be forever. And if it's not forever, it's a failure. It makes me so sad when I hear people say, oh, I had a failed marriage. Well, I mean, I had 2 great marriages. I think I had 2 very successful marriages. I don't think of them as failures, even though they didn't last forever. And I think the concept of that you have to agree to how you're going to feel and how you're going to behave for the rest of your life is kind of what other contract do you sign for the rest of your life? Like, it's not really, in my opinion, it's not really even a valid concept to begin with. I think the idea that I'm going to devote myself to you and that we're going to, make this effort to build a life together, that's a worthwhile endeavor. But I can't promise you how I'm going to feel 25 years from now. How do I even know? You don't know who you are 2 years from now. How do you know who you're going to be 25 years from now? So I also think that there maybe our culture needs to downplay the severity of this concept of a divorce, or, life comes in chapters.
That's why I think, at least our generation, we are waiting. I mean, people are waiting until their 30s to get married now. Absolutely. I mean, my fiance's now about to be 40, so he's waited even longer. But my parents got married when they were 19 and 20, and they were married for 20 years. That's a long time. Yeah. So when you wait and you try and find that person, I think you're ready for that commitment, rather than getting young and then feeling like you missed out on something, or, I have changed completely. So I think our generation is kind of accepting, seeing like what happens when you do get married too young and kind of just waiting it out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what about like staying at home with kids? Is that something you guys think that you see in your future?
I would love to.
Yeah?
Want me to stay at mommy?
Yeah.
Well, I started White Gloves Data too, so I could work from home.
Oh, nice.
And, create, because I love, making money, and I love being successful, and I do love communicating
finer
with
things in life.
Financial freedom.
I don't want to start walking around baby talk. But so it's kind of just, I knew that I wanted to stay home with my kids eventually. That is something I want for my future, and especially now being engaged. So when I sat back and I thought about it, I wanted to create a career path where I could I'm the boss. I can do
Right.
whatever I want to do, work wherever I want to, and still create an income for the family and still feel like I'm a part of something.
Right. And be there for your kids. 'Cause
Yes.
That's what's
Awesome.
important.
Yeah.
Is being there. Because usually, people have to work and they're never there for their children, or have nannies. And that's great. Nannies are great as well. But, being there to help mold your children is really important, be there for those years so you don't miss out. And then you hold on to yourself later on in life.
I still plan on having a nanny like twice.
In
Twice a week.
She's living in home. We have a back house for her.
That's ideal. Yeah.
Absolutely.
What about you, Tallulah? Dawn?
Ooh, hard question, honestly. I think if you would have asked me 5 years ago, the start of my 20s, my answer was the same as when I was like 10 years old, which is I want 5 kids.
Wow.
There's like a whole formula behind it. It has to be an odd number, so like they can't get into a fight. There's always a middleman who's going to make sure that they are friends. Like a whole system, okay? I was like 5, right? I promise it's like, I'm not even like being facetious, but since getting a dog, Eris and I got a little rescue together. His name is Nietzsche. I know Eris likes to joke that I've surrounded myself with philosophers, which I very much so
Aristotle
have.
and Nietzsche.
Oh my God.
That's hilarious.
But since getting him, and he's both of our first dogs, so I get that a little bit, but it's just so much responsibilities. I'm constantly worried about him. He's basically he's 7 years old, so he's lived his life. He's just here to hang out, and I'm so arty. So I think for me, as far as kids go, it's really given me a chance to reconsider kind of like what my goals are. And I think I have a younger brother, and I've been surrounded with a lot of family who everybody has siblings, and there's big clans. And I really have started to like understand the benefits of being an only child, especially with older parents, where your parents have had the chance to do all the things they want to do. There isn't going to be any kind of like, oh, well, I missed out on this opportunity because I couldn't, like, I had to be with my child or something like that. And it just feels like you mentioned, like, our generation is taking more time and like putting in more thought and thinking out more of the consequences. And I think having a child has been such an important part of just being a person for our entire history as human beings. And now we're in such a place of progress and advancement where we can actually take a step back and choose whether or not we want to have kids. That was never really a choice for hundreds or centuries, hundreds of years, centuries. So, for me, it's still a fluid decision. I don't have anything set in stone, but I think
5 went down to 3. 2.5 maybe.
We'll see. Yeah.
One and a dog.
Yeah.
Exactly. She's got it.
Well, and the funny thing is that's how I started too. I thought I wanted 4 boys.
Wow.
Had my first. I was like, oh God, that was really hard. Maybe 3. And then I had my second. I'm like, I'm done. I have 2 hands, 2 kids.
Yeah.
That's all I can do.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work raising kids for sure.
Absolutely.
And I think it's great that people are taking more time and giving. I also feel like, maybe this is just me, but I mean, isn't overpopulation kind of a thing?
Yes.
Like, do we really need to be having 5 kids in a family? And I mean, like, and before it was like you had to take care of your parents, and so like, we've got plenty. We've got Amazon now. We don't need 5 kids. Okay, but here's another thing that I feel like was really big in my generation, and I actually talked to Reverend Robert Schuller about this when he was a guest on the show, about the decline of religion in people's lives as well. And not to say that there aren't spiritual people, but the actual religious, go to church every Sunday, that kind of stuff, that seems like that's really changed since my generation. Right. How do you feel about that? Or how do you think your generation has responded to religious practices?
There's so many different people, like everyone has a different outlook on it. And I recently just started diving in a little bit more into the spirituality of things and found God this last year. And it's been great. It's amazing. I talk to him every day. And,
You're like, where have you been?
He talks back and I love it, But yeah, it's definitely something that has definitely calmed down a lot more, I think, in our generation. A lot more things are...
Were you ever a churchgoer?
My mom made us go when we were younger. We were young. You don't really want to go to church. You just want to, go out and play with your friends on a Sunday. But I think it's important to have something to kind of believe in. May not, necessarily need to be God or, whatever you believe in, but I don't know, it feels like you there's hope. Like you have hope at the end of the day when you believe in something,
Well, and I think that spirituality and religion, I think a lot of people are kind of trading one for the other, so to speak. It's not about not having faith or not having belief in God or a higher source or that type of thing.
Right.
But it feels like the structure is what people are pushing back on, in my opinion. And maybe it's because of the you kind of have to pick sides when you're in a religious group, right? It's like us against them, or we're the best, or we're the right ones, they're the wrong ones. That never felt good to me in church. So I think that's part of what I was kind of like, I don't want to feel like I'm putting anybody else down by supporting. So that's why spirituality is just easier for me. We love everybody, we're all equal. But I know you're a very very religious / spiritual person. How do you fit into your world?
Yeah, well, so I did grow up in church. I've, gone to church a lot throughout my whole life, and I have a whole family that's very, modest and conservative. And I think growing up that way really helped create who I am today, which I would never want to change. I do think that when it comes to certain religions and rules, people will get scared of certain religions because of the shaming part of things. I think all religions do a great job at building certain, building just making you feel like you should be a good person, holding you accountable, ethics, holding you accountable to certain things. And I also believe in God, and I think that's a huge part for me too. And it just helps me try to be the best person I can be every day, just like living certain, values and all this kind of thing. I think it's just a great way to kind of just live your life. Like she said, have hope in something. I think it's very important to just believe. At least in my life, I want to feel like I have a purpose here. I want to feel like, okay, there's something going on here. Somebody's watching out for me, during some of the hardest times in my life. Like when I did feel alone, I knew I wasn't alone, and that was very important to me. And so I just want everybody to experience that,
Will you take your kids to church?
Oh, yeah. Just because I want them to, when you go into a Christian church, it's really just a positive experience. And Jack actually recently went with me. I never try and push religion on anyone. So we've been together now for almost 3 years or something. So I've never asked him to go. I never literally have been like, I need you to do this. I just wanted him to go in there naturally, and I just led by example. Yeah. And I learned that a long time ago when I tried to argue with someone in college, and they really they responded to me saying, I wish you would have just told me why you believe rather than telling me how to believe. And I was like, wow. So it was a huge clicking point in my life. And so since then, I was 18 years old. I'll never forget it. I was at a Halloween party, and I'll never forget it. And since then, I've never tried to tell someone why or how you should believe. You should believe this. You should believe that. What you're doing is wrong. I just simply tell them why I believe.
Educate them on it.
Yeah, not even really educated. Just this is what I believe. This is what makes me happy. Yeah. I never feel alone. God is love, all that kind of stuff. And then they just naturally do that, or they naturally come back to me with questions, and I just find that works best, rather than the older culture kind of pushing it to you.
Yeah. Push back.
I love that.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Oh no. I know. Well, I think that, a lot of, I think, quintessential millennials out there, I was not necessarily raised with a certain, religious belief structure. I was raised to believe that there was, a God, but it wasn't necessarily defined that much for me, other than just beyond God is in all things. And so I never really had any kind of relationship with that, an entity outside of myself. And I got really deep down the philosophy, loophole, and just went into a lot of different readings and kind of interpretations, and that's how I approached it. My freshman year, I took a seminar on Nietzsche, who's my favorite philosopher, and wrote like this 20-page paper on how God is dead and all of this stuff. And it took until like 2 or 3 years later, continuing to read like the same text to try to understand it better, that the realization that I came to is basically, I think, why we're also seeing the spirituality movement. It's just that, I think Descartes also says this, we're essentially like, at the end of the day, a person, a human being is a finite being. We have limitations. They're just like you mentioned, right? Ultimately, at the end of the day, we're alone, we're lonely. And so by definition, if we have something that's finite, there must be something that's infinite. And that's kind of how I relate to spirituality, as something infinite outside of myself, as I am a finite being. Sorry, I touched my mic. I don't have like full capability to do all of the things. And so in the places where I'm weak or not capable, I don't have to feel like a complete failure or like I've lost something or I'm less than. And I think like the specific name or however you choose to identify with that is kind of that movement towards spirituality. But echoing a lot of what Jessica says, I've been to a lot of different types of religious institutions. I've really respect Zoroastrianism. I've spent some time with the Christian faith. I have learned about the Islamic faith through my family. And I agree. I think the root of the goal of all of these institutions is to help people make better decisions and to live more purposeful lives. And, I agree. I think sometimes there are ways that they're not necessarily, the rituals are performed in the best way. But at the end of the day, if you're able to come away from it with something, if you're able to, I treat, sermons like philosophy lessons. I go in, I listen to how, the speaker is suggesting that I interpret life, and I take the parts that resonate with me and leave the parts that maybe don't, and don't judge it based off of that. So,
do you guys feel like your generation is much more open about that?
Yeah.
I think our generation is much more spiritual than religious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And people accept people of different faiths a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I love that part of it, right? I think that's
too.
a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah, me too.
So I just had marine life artist Wyland on the show. Woo-hoo. And we got to talk about the oil spill that happened off the coast of California. And we talked about the wildfires. There's a lot of stuff going on in our state right now. And even though you guys are all, not born native Californians like me, you guys see what's going on. And how much is the environment or ecology important to you and to your generation?
So important.
It is?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're making a big footprint in what we're doing in everyday life. Even if we don't think we are. And it's getting devastating. I mean, the next couple of years, 20 years from now, who knows what this world is going to be like with, all the fossil fuels and so much trash. I mean, the trash is just insane. I got a little trash can from my house thinking, hey, if I have a little trash can, I'm going to make less trash. Wrong. It's so wrong. Oh my gosh. It's so wrong.
So you're just taking it out every 5 minutes.
Every 5 minutes. Someone's like, can I just get you a new trash can? I'm like, no, this is what I am. But no, I am very big with the environment. No plastic bags. I have all mesh bags for my produce. I don't do paper towels. I have rags.
Well, and you have been vegan for many, many years, so that makes a big
impact.
Yeah,
Yes.
good for you.
I believe, we are the generation that can make a change, and then we need to teach the younger generations how to, live that lifestyle. It might be a little bit more, you got to do a little extra work, but the outcome is just so much larger than if you just, don't recycle or, all the plastic bags in the world, if you can just buy reusable things, just wash stuff, it can make a big difference,
Are you guys feeling the same?
Yeah, I try to do what I can. I mean, I try and recycle. I use a reusable water bottle, things like that. I do think our generation and generations to come are going to be very, creative when it comes to inventing new things to help with certain things like trash. And, also the oil and stuff like that. I think it's going to be, even though we are, going down this path, I think there is some type of hope and light.
There's a light at the end of the tunnel.
By, how creative we are and how our brains work. And I mean, we're already doing electric cars now, and that's going to be a huge stepping stone. And I think that's just the start of something really cool.
Yeah, solar.
I think so too.
Solar, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally echo that. I think the creativity is going to be it's kind of hard sometimes to visualize what the future is going to look like and what's going to be available then. But I think the main thing is it's definitely a radar. It's on our radar. It's definitely on Gen Z's radar. And it's something that, I think it even comes down to stuff like fast fashion is now being criticized. And there's a huge push towards buying higher quality goods that you invest in and maintain for longer. And I know that's something that my grandparents or great grandparents did. And it wasn't necessarily taught to me, but I see the value in it. And I think sharing those kinds of practices with each other and encouraging each other to do that and thrift and do all of that.
Yes.
I've been a consignment shopper from years back. I totally agree.
I'm taking notes from you, girl.
I do believe the environment is such a big issue. It's a huge issue. Maybe our biggest issue, although every time somebody comes on, they talk about a new issue. I'm like, well, that's probably our biggest issue. What is it that keeps you guys up at night? I mean, what are the things that you guys are most concerned about?
There's a lot of things, but I definitely sleep good at night because I don't let them bother me because it is changeable, but not just by me. We need to all come together, and I'm not going to lose sleep on something that I can't change. You're going to make yourself stressed out, mad, angry, sad, whatever it is, over something you can't control at the moment, just you. So why give whatever's happening that authority over you and losing lack of sleep,
Well, that's a new part of the generation. Our generation, we believe that you should worry all the time. Be as stressed as possible.
Oh, no.
I don't lose sleep. I don't go to bed thinking about this, but something that does weigh heavy on my heart and makes me very sad is seeing, our generation and generations of, to come. The social media aspect is a great tool, but it's creating a lot of depression and, children of suicides and young teens and drug addictions and all of these things. And I just think that it would be a much simpler world if somehow we could just shut those things off at a certain time or something and really just be in present and, because learning to love yourself, learning to love the people around you rather than wishing you had the life of what's on Instagram, of these Instagram models and such like that are traveling the world and making money off of, things like that. Of course, all of us wish we could do that. It sounds like a great life. But at the end of the day, I think that just it's hurting us as a whole culture, and it makes me very sad to know that young women aren't just
They're
looking
preying on insecurities because we can't help it. When we're younger, we are more insecure. We're trying to find where we fit in the world, and we can't help it. So if there was a mass movement that said everybody turn off their social media for 1 week, would you guys be down with that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I had no social media for 4 months.
I think it'd be huge.
Great.
I think it'd be huge if social media could shut it off from 6 to 5 a.m.
Well, they're never going to do it because they're money generating. So it would take the people, right?
There you go.
Yeah. I think that's. I think we have to be the voice of that, right? We have to. But if somebody organized that, I would be totally down for it.
Totally.
And it would be kind of cool too because it would be it's kind of like the 2020 experience. You'd actually start learning other things about yourself or finding other new, outlets or ways to communicate, or maybe actually get together in person. And,
Or even doing a sober October, but no social media.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
I did it for 4 months, and I loved it. I didn't have any tags on anyone else's life. Nobody knew what I was doing, so everyone was like, "What are you doing? What are you doing with your life?" And I'm just, I'm living my life without having to put on a facade for everybody, because you don't really know what's happening behind that picture. They could be miserable, but they put all those filters that make them look happy.
I resemble that remark.
I'm not a filter girl, what you see is what you get. So you better like it. No.
Okay, so I know all of 3 of you ladies are in beautiful relationships.
Yeah.
Jessica, the most recent. Ashley, the most recent.
Yes.
But of course, everybody wants to know, what is the dating like in the 20s? And so here's the funny thing. And you guys are going to see this, once you're out of your 20s and you're into your 30s, all of a sudden age becomes an issue. And I know you don't think it's that you think it's further out, but it's not. As soon as you're in your 30s, then you start thinking like, oh, I'm in my 30s. When do I have that first child? Oh, I'm in my 30s. Where am I supposed to be in terms of relationship, job, all these types of, all of a sudden it's like the 30s time clock starts. Also, if you're single in your 30s, the guys that you want are dating the 20-year-olds. And when you're in your 40s, the guys you want are dating the 20-year-olds. And when you're in your 50s, the guys you want are dating the 20-year-olds. So I just want to know, give us the good, the bad, and the ugly of dating in their 20s.
Yeah, I've been single. I just recently got in a relationship with his name's Dennis.
Dennis the dentist.
Dennis the dentist. That's how everybody knows you as, sweetie. I was single for 2.5 years, and the dating life is rough. People, the good ones are all taken, and then the ones that are, okay, there's, they're not the one.
Work in progress.
And then like the dating life, it just makes you realize about yourself so much, what you want and what your needs are and what what you want out of a life partner, and I think dating is important because you go through all those stepping stones and those chapters, that the good, the bad, and the ugly, to
definitely help to learn about yourself, right? Yeah.
And you create that best version of yourself, so when that man comes along that just sweeps you off your feet, you are that perfect person that for yourself you are, and for them in their eyes as well, because you've been through it all,
Yep.
But I do give it to the ones that find their significant other like that, and that's it forever. That's amazing, But
Well, I want to give kudos to you, girl, because I have watched you blossom so much, and not just me. All of our friends have all commented on it, but you are that girl that just decided I need to figure out what's best for me. You went to school, you got your career, you decided, I'm going to align my life with and once you did that, like all of a sudden the world just opened up to you, and like everything just started coming your way.
Delivered.
And
oh my gosh.
It was such a beautiful sight to see. And I feel like there are so many girls like you who kind of come at the situation going, okay, I need to find this person that's going to take care of this in my life, or this person that's going to take care of this in my life. And we're kind of taught to think that way, right? That there's going to be a man that's going to come in and it's going to solve that, or there's going to be a job that's going to come in. But the more you start taking responsibility for yourself, you become a magnet to what you want. Mm-hmm. And I have seen that happen in you, and I'm so proud of you. And I feel really... I feel bad for women of this age, because at least in my days, and when I was in my 20s, there was no internet.
Right.
There were no cell phones. There were no, the guy had to call you on your home phone and ask you out. And, you met people at the grocery store. There was no online dating, no dating apps and stuff. So things were very simple. Things are very complicated now. And I don't know, you've been in a relationship for a bit now, but... Mm-hmm. You were single for a while.
Yeah, dating is not easy. I think, there's a lot of, especially for a man too. Not saying that they're out there looking, but I feel like men are more open to, dating more than one person, mm-hmm. or then you feel like you like him, and then all of a sudden he doesn't text you back, or, then all this, and then there is social media, so then they feel like they can just get the next biggest thing because they're at the tip of their fingers,
Mm-hmm.
all they do is message them, they don't have to find them. So I think that's a huge thing too.
Do you think women have made it too easy for men?
Yes. Yeah, I do. I think a lot of women need to start holding men accountable.
Yes.
So when it comes to your first date, keep those, quality, like come to my door,
values,
pick me up, call me, don't just text me, or yeah, I think the first date is a huge either red flag or, let's do another date.
Yeah.
I think a lot of girls want to be dating someone too so badly that they just kind of turn a blind eye to certain red flags and then just continue to date that person. But then, deep down they know this isn't the one, or,
They just need to be with somebody.
or just accept that he might be talking to other people,
Yeah.
I mean, open relationship is a big thing these days.
Yeah.
So that would be tough for me. I've always been somebody that tells you what I like and don't like. And
So what about the whole thing of women in their 20s dating men in their 50s and 60s? Is that something that you guys see yourself doing?
There's a vendetta, I think, behind it.
A vendetta?
There's something, I think, you could age is just a number, but at some time it's like, okay, you think you can, what's going on here?
Yeah. I think it's so hard with these kinds of questions because everything in context, right? And every couple is unique and has their shared features that bring them together. But I think for me, the big thing was that I don't know if there's among my friends as well. Sorry, I'm formulating a thought. Among my friends as well, there's been this, I think, big push, and whether it's Disney or all of the literature that we've all been reading and being fed, media being fed, but there's this idea of that perfect click, that right person, everything works, it's a fairy tale. And obviously there's a little bit of understanding that that's not going to be the case. But I don't think that there's enough education that a relationship is truly an active thing. It's something you have to participate in. It's something that both sides have to want to be in. Right. There's a huge, if you look on social media, I think less so now, but there's so many stories where women are sharing about how they are struggling to get their partner to do something, or they're struggling to be able to connect with them or whatever. And it's kind of if that person doesn't want to spend time with you, if they don't want to be with you, why are you both killing yourselves to be together? And I understand it's much easier said than done and but I think, at least in my relationship with Eris, one of the things that I liked a lot, I think we both liked about each other, is right off the bat, we had that conversation of, hey, I don't want to play games. I know that that's something that happens and I don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. Okay, we're on the same page. Let's continue to communicate constantly about what our expectations are, make sure we're on the same page. And I think the other thing that I brought into this relationship that was newer and I hadn't done in my, previous relationships when I was younger was I had the mentality before I really committed to Eris that this is a whole person. He is complete and I'm accepting him as he is. And that doesn't mean that he's not going to change or improve and grow, but it's not my job to turn him into something else. And so if there's a part of his behavior or personality, I know you mentioned you also like to be upfront about your expectations. I think there's definitely tact to how you do it. You don't just come out and say, hey, I don't like this.
Delivery.
Yeah, but if you communicate about it and the person is willing to grow, that's great. If they're not, and it's something that is of value to you, it's it's my responsibility to, end that relationship because it's no longer working. And I think it's about mindset. Because you are right. I think you mentioned when you're younger, you just want to be in a relationship. And so many, not just women, men settle as well. Everybody can settle. And I think it takes a couple of relationships to realize I don't need to, and seeing examples of other good relationships, which social media can be beneficial in some places that, but everything in moderation.
Yeah.
So
I feel like you guys have the benefit over the fact that there is so much more information out there. I mean, every question that you have, you can find an answer, there are 7 of them, or 27 of them.
A lot of them.
So on one hand, that's great. I also think that we're seeing a lot more, really of late, in the media about women empowerment, standing up for ourselves, feeling good about yourself, not, I think in my generation, we were told how to be a good wife. You were told, how to make a man want you, how to make a man want to keep you. It was a very different kind of communication that I think that we got raised on than what you guys are being raised on. Hopefully that's going to make it easier, but still I want to go back to this men in their 50s dating women in their 20s. Because I obviously see what the man's motivation is, right? Men love beautiful women. They want to feel young.
Yeah.
But I also feel like on the flip side of that, doesn't a woman, because I would think back in my 20s, I married a man who was 12 years older than me. And that seemed very old to me. Oh my God, he was in his 30s, I would not have even considered dating a man in his 50s or 60s at that time. And yet I feel like it's so common. And maybe the area that we live in, because Orange County is definitely, that's a thing. But what do you think the girls are thinking? I mean, tell us what from your 20s, what are your friends thinking that are dating these older guys?
I think they went through experiences of dating men their age or close to it, and it probably wasn't a great experience. And they end up meeting an older man, and that man ends up creating stability within their life. They go on fun trips together. They buy gifts. They're full of love, and then they also can also bring to the table a lot of knowledge. So women that are interested in learning a lot, the conversations are just different. So that's what I think probably.
Yeah. Right.
Let's hope.
I think it's security and just really being around that lifestyle, and then going from not so much for someone that's still growing in their career too. So a man that's in his 20s is still trying to build his career, still trying to figure stuff out. And then
The maturity levels are definitely very low in their 20s. No offense, guys.
So then meeting someone in their 50s, I think, just security and, just...
Well, and I think your generation is not looking as far down the road as my generation did. Everything was based on taking you to the end of your life. And I think you guys are much more, I think you guys are much more thinking about today, right now, maybe till next year. But you're not looking like, okay, I'm going to date this guy in 20 years from now, he's going to be 70 and I'm going to be,
taking care.
I don't think a lot of women
are
with
really
that
thinking about
age
that.
gap think like that.
Yeah.
I think it's more, this is the now. This is what works for me right now.
Yeah, that's the problem with our generation. I feel like we all want that instant gratification and we want it now, and things that are worth really anything or, they take time, it takes time and, dedication, motivation, all that to make things work. And I feel like our society nowadays is like, I want it now. I want it now with the symptoms, I'm sick. I want, but if you do it, I'm very holistic, and that takes a little bit longer, the herbs and stuff versus, pharmaceuticals that, just do that, masks the problem. But I think.
Yeah, you guys definitely are the instant gratification generation.
Right.
Okay, guys, we know we do something here called favorites, and this is one of my favorite parts of the show, mostly because I get the most comments on it. So we have to ask you this before we go.
Okay.
What is your favorite television show?
God, impossible.
Impossible to narrow it down.
I know. I would say I really, really enjoyed Fleabag. I thought that was really well done, and I really appreciate series that have it thought out and they don't just go on forever. So having said that, The Office is also just such a
great show.
It's a good show.
It goes on forever, but it's worth it.
No, it's not still doing new shows, right? It's just reruns, right? I was about to say, oh my gosh.
Classic, though.
Yeah.
My favorite show right now is Goop.
Ooh.
Have you guys watched it?
No.
Oh, it's so good.
What's that on?
Oh, it's like a lifestyle TV show. So they show different episodes or different topics. And one can be about being vegan, or another one can be about a guided experience by taking mushrooms.
Oh, right. So this is the one that's it's a celebrity.
Yeah.
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah. Oh,
I watched that. It's really good.
Somebody did recommend that to me. That's all the kind of stuff I'm interested in. So I gotta see it.
You'll love it.
I love it. Yeah.
It's really cool.
Mine, I just love comedy, anything funny, and I love Schitt's Creek. I don't know if y'all have you guys. It's so good.
Funny.
His family, rich, and then something with the taxes, and then they're living in a motel, and it's just it's hilarious.
I love Yellowstone too.
Yeah, I that's another one I keep getting recommended. Yeah. I'm slowly going to get back into television. I promise I am. I've got to do it.
Don't worry, I'll always be there.
Yeah, right? Okay, what about music listening source? If you're going to go put on music, where do you go?
I usually go to Spotify or SoundCloud. More into the housey vibes and stuff.
And you just do it on your phone, and when you're at home, how do you listen to it?
I do it on my phone, and I have a speaker I connect to. Okay. So I take the speaker.
And do you run that through your car?
I do run. It hooks up to my car too.
Yeah.
And
that makes it easy. Yeah. What about you guys?
Spotify connects to all of our Bose speakers within the house. It's pretty cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. I also use Spotify, but I will say I usually forget to listen to music because I'm just like thinking, you know.
Yeah.
No, but Spotify, I really like their Discover Me playlist.
Every
Discover
Monday.
Weekly.
It comes
They
out every
do-
Monday.
There's at least a couple songs that are
Oh my
hits.
gosh.
It's really good.
It's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So why do you guys do
Highly
Spotify over Pandora?
Because you can pick, like Pandora, it's like a category, like you pick, Rufus Du Sol, and then it's just like, it's one of their songs and like many other artists, which is cool for discovering new artists. But if you want to listen to that specific artist, you won't get that.
Okay.
But with Spotify, you can listen to that specific artist, and then it suggests things similar to that, and I don't know, you just
It's a little
discover.
more interactive. You
Right.
build on it.
Yeah, I listen to podcasts too on Spotify, which is nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the
Thanks,
variety.
Circle.
I honestly just like how you can build playlists. It just seems easier.
So
Yeah.
It's like a full catalog of like everything.
Everything.
And it also, I mean, I think they've had the algorithmic like function around a little longer than other companies, and
Right.
so they're just so on point with the
so on point.
recommendations
Yeah.
and with their own playlists. It's really hard to miss.
So I was listening because a
an
friend
ad
of
for
mine
Spotify.
put it on, and I was listening to it, and like their station. So who was it? Oh, Andy Grammer. I love Andy Grammer. So I put on Andy Grammer on Spotify, but all the other music around it, I didn't like it. And I was like, what? Put on Andy Grammer on Pandora. Like, I know that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's funny how it really does change from source to source. They are different. Okay. What is your biggest Christmas wish list item?
My goodness.
Ding, ding, ding,
I really want the Dyson Airwrap.
Mine is the same.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yours is what?
Yeah, it's the same. And I actually, I've been talking about it for so long that my parents already dropped. They're gonna get it for me. They're like, okay, just stop talking about it. We'll get it.
Yeah.
Just
I
don't
want the
want
whole
to hear about
styling
it.
kit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Somebody talked about that on the favorites. Heidi Benavides talked
would
about that,
love it.
and everybody
pretty
was
good.
like raving over it.
Oh, yeah.
But it's very expensive.
It
Yes,
is.
like-
It's
It's
100%
like $600.
Yeah.
Wow.
500
Well,
bucks,
good thing your
yeah.
parents are getting it. Because I know
Thank
Aristotle
you,
is a stretch for him. Wow. So what's yours?
I've been wanting a new snowboard. I got into snowboarding a couple years ago, and I had a girlfriend who gave me all her old snowboarding stuff. So I have it from like 04 snowboarding gear. So I'm like, I think
Time for an upgrade.
21. I think it's time for an upgrade a little bit. So that's what I'm wishing Santa. Hope you hear me.
Well, he sits right up there next to God, so,
Yes.
it's all good. Okay, ladies. Well, thank you so much for joining us this week. I think we got down. We really understand now what your generation's going through, and we appreciate you
Thank you so much
representing.
for having us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is a great talk.
Yes, so fun.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Delphine Circle. Don't forget to subscribe. It's free and it will help us keep these incredible interviews coming your way. Here are 2 other episodes you may enjoy. I'm Delphine. Welcome to my circle.